First the sun was too close, thus making it too hot. They raised the sun again and again, 7 times, until it was right height just below the sky arch. The highest place, Fuani Digalumation, is the 7th height. The animals and plants were told to keep watch for the 7 nights. As the days passed, many began to fall asleep, until on some night, only the owl, able to stay awake all night, watched over. And these animals were given the power to see in the dark and prey on birds and animals that slept at night. Of the plants, only the cedar, pine, spruce, the holly, and the laurel were awake again. They were therefore given the power to always be green, and to give the greatest medicine. Later on, men came, and they said, but the words were said, because you have not endured to the end, you shall lose your hair every winter. Men came, animals and plants. First there was only a brother and sister, till they struck her with a fish and told her to multiply. In 7 days, the child was born to her. Therefore, she had now 1 for every year. This is made that there is only 1 child a year, and has been so ever since.
You may be wondering why the chairs are split up into sections with string. The reason is because in the Cherokee Nation, it was split up into smaller sections of clans. Each clan had a name and background. I'll tell you the clan names and backgrounds now. The Wild Potato Clan. Historically, members of this clan were known to be keepers of the land and gathered the wild potato. Gatherers. The wild potato was the main staple of the traditional Cherokee life in the southeast. The Longhair Clan. The Longhair Clan members were regarded as peacemakers. Peace chiefs would often be from this clan. In the times of the peace chief and war chief government, the peace chief would come from this clan. The Deer Clan. The Deer Clan members were historically known as fast runners and hunters. Even though they hunted game for sustenance, they respected and cared for the animals while they were living amongst them. They were also known as messengers on an earthly level, delivering messages from village to village, person to person. Blue Clan. Historically, the Blue Clan produced many people who were able to make special medicines for the children. The medicine was made from blue plant, which is where the clan gained its name. The Bird Clan. The Bird Clan members were historically known as messengers. The belief that birds are messengers between earth and heaven, or the people and creator, gave the members of this clan the responsibility of caring for the birds. Earned eagle feathers were originally presented by members of this clan, as they were the only ones able to collect them. The Wolf Clan. The Wolf Clan has been known through time to be the largest clan. During this time, the time of the peace chief and war chief government setting, the war chief would come from this clan. Wolves are known as protectors. Paint Clan. Paint Clan was also commonly called the Red Paint Clan, and historically known as a prominent medicine people. Medicine was often painted on a patient after harvesting, mixing, and performing other aspects of the ceremony. And if you want to learn more about them, there's a little bit written up here on the table, and you can look at it after the service.
To any children in the congregation, we encourage and invite you to stay for the rest of the service, but if you choose to leave, then you're free to do so now. So if you all join me in singing Go Now in Peace. Go now in peace. Go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
So now we will have a moment of silent meditation.
It's Sunday morning, and you're gathering vegetables in the farm. Children are playing. You sit with your legs crossed in the green pastures overlooking the lake. Today, you plan to seek spiritual guidance and focus on spiritual enlightenment. Suddenly, a cold breeze passes through you, startling you awake. You realize you're not sitting under the warm sun. Instead, you have fallen on top of 2 feet of snow. And you realize that was not children laughing or playing, but rather people crying as their infants and elderly died from the conditions. A soldier with U.S. patches riding up beside you on his horse with a gun pointed at you commands you, "Get up, continue walking." Then you remember you are only on mile 1,000 of a 2,200-mile journey. And any family you had died hundreds of miles before you. Ladies and gentlemen, the Indian Removal Act of 1830 affected not only the Cherokee, but also the Seminole, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Muskogee, and Creek indigenous people. After their property was taken, houses burned, women and children mistreated, the indigenous people would be forced to trek 2,200 miles in a path from Georgia to Oklahoma. Today, we will focus on the Cherokee. This was the forced removal of about 17,000 Cherokees and thousands of other American indigenous people. Around 4,000 to 5,000 Cherokee died while walking the Trail of Tears. There was sickness, cold, drought, and exposure to diseases. About 14 to 15 bodies were buried at each stop, hence the mourning and the name Trail of Tears.
History books tell us that the Trail of Tears is not all that bad of a thing. That the Chickasaw, Chickasaws, Creeks, Muskogee, Seminoles, and the Cherokees signed a treaty and willingly moved with the aid of the U.S. Army to the west of the Mississippi. The part they do not tell you is that the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Cherokee Constitution, stating that they were their own independent country, and that the U.S. had no rule over their lands. Also, that when a treaty was brought to the Cherokee that included their removal from their lands, the Cherokee government refused to sign it, but a small handful of Cherokee went ahead and signed it without their government's permission. The Cherokee people did not consent to this treaty and created a petition to show the U.S. government that they did not agree with the small group signing the treaty. Unfortunately, when the petition reached D.C., 2 senators were in a duel and 1 died, and the petition never reached the floor of Congress. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the United States could not remove the tribes from their land and that the treaty was unconstitutional. But the president at the time, Andrew Jackson, went against the Supreme Court ruling and told the Supreme Court that they could enforce the verdict to protect the tribes on their own. Andrew Jackson then sent the United States Army to forcefully remove the tribes from their homelands with only the clothes on their back. The Chickasaws, Creeks, Seminoles, Muskogee, and Cherokee were then rounded into internment camps that had no shelter, where they stayed all summer living in the mud, exposed to the elements. When we have been taught that the Cherokee people were marched across the Mississippi during the winter. What we don't hear about is that the Cherokee Nation chief, John Ross, made the decision for his people to go in the winter. He had to sit and weigh the maximum chances of survival. Would more survive the heat and diseases of the summer, or would more survive walking the 2,200 miles in the winter? He had the unfathomable responsibility to decide. With promises of supplies and food, he made the decision for them to travel in the winter and were stolen. The tribes were forced marched over 2,200 miles in the snow. Along the way, over 4,000 died. That is why it is called the Trail of Tears.
So something that this trip got me thinking about while I heard about all the terrible things that you've just heard about recently, how severe it really was in comparison to what you've heard in textbooks in school your entire life. It got me thinking that the Europeans that invaded this country and took it over the way that they did. They only did that so that they could say that they owned this land, so that they could exploit its resources. That got me thinking about how insanely attached we've become and how attached we've always been to the idea that any person or group of people could really own any specific part of the earth. It just blows my mind how far we're willing to go to prove that to other people. Including the genocide of the indigenous peoples here. There's been countless genocides and wars over who owns what chunk of the earth, and it just makes me feel like the earth might be a much better place if maybe we dismiss that idea completely, and instead of separating ourselves by nationality and land border and things like that, if we just shared the earth as a whole as one place for us all to be and exist, rather than separate areas of the earth that we all fight over. If we could just be and have the earth as a place to live itself. It's not going to be on that. So it's all that to do it.
We took the Native Americans from their homes with all their clothes on their backs. We took them through snow and almost died from sickness and the harsh conditions we put them through. The Native Americans owned their land, they shared it all for themselves. Oh my God. Please forget that sentence. They shared it, and it was all for all. They didn't believe in the attachment, like Mama said. We found gold, and we thought their land was nice, fertile, profitable. And so we took it from them, forced them out. Even though they signed a petition, we still didn't care. We took them through, and made them go through the Trail of Tears. We cannot ever let that happen again to anyone.
To me, this trip was of everything new. It's a completely new place to me. Here in this area, I never got to go to without my parents because my parents would go on vacations anywhere with me, and this was the first time I got the freedom to go without them, and it was strange. It was definitely a new experience. This piece of land was beautiful. It was huge, and we got the chance to explore it. The hills, as my friends called them. They ran for miles, and the nature was high and low. The caves and the history of the Trail of Tears enlightened me and brought a different opinion to my mind. I feel like the world is different, and I'm missing out on a world that should be explored. This experience was like tasting something for the first time. This trip is something special to me. I learned so many unbelievable things. I got to be with amazing people, and I will not forget any of it. I will always know the truth of the Trail of Tears, and so will you.
We can learn and remember what we, the people, have done to the native tribes throughout this land of ours. But we also have to remember that we did not just do this to the indigenous peoples, but we also forcibly removed hundreds of Japanese American citizens from their homes during World War II. Once again, we rounded up hundreds of people with our military force to take them from their homes with only the clothes on their backs. Did we learn from our past? Citizens today fight over eminent domain issues with the government and corporations. Today, the U.S. government is still taking land from the Chickasaws, Creeks, Seminoles, Muscogee, Navajo, Apache, and Cherokee tribes, just to name a few. We are still breaking our treaties with these tribes, and now the tribes that made up the population of this land are only 0.9% of the population. That's only 2.9 million Native Americans left, and it's shrinking by the year.
We're going to do a Q&A now, in case there's anything that you feel like we should have covered, that we didn't, anything that you'd like to know that maybe we forgot to cover. Is there any questions about this whole thing? Anybody?
There's one here. not a question, but a comment. Many people in the audience may have seen the play that is presented at Cherokee, North Carolina, near the southern foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. It's been going on there for many years. I don't know just how long, at least 30 or 40 years. And it's well worth seeing. I think it's called Trail of Tears, isn't it? Unto These Hills. Unto These Hills.
If you ever get the chance, you should see that. It's an excellent play. We had the opportunity to see that. Awesome.
Could you tell us about some of the places that you went, the things that you saw, the things that moved you the most, maybe?
Well, we started out in South Carolina, and followed part of the Trail of Tears through to Tennessee, and then down towards Florida from there. But I'd say the play that was mentioned earlier is one of the things that moved me the most. It was just really powerful, you know, the way they were acting.
What moved me though the most was when we first